Today I'm going to share my non-recipe recipe for sourdough bread. Now, I know this probably will upset some people in the sourdough community, but I do not measure anything to make my sourdough bread. Now, I never started this way. I used to measure everything. But once I got down kind of like how the texture of everything should be, and once my scale battery died, to be honest, I just started making it just based on how the touch and feel of the bread was. And I'm sharing this mostly because I want to encourage people who are really afraid of making sourdough bread, because I do think that the sourdough community can be a bit intimidating. And if you do things kind of outside of the norm of sourdough, I have seen some kind of crazy comments to people. So, I think the most important thing when you're doing sourdough is really truly to have a strong starter. And once you have that, like, you can really make it through pretty much any mistake that you might make. And here I am just putting in like probably about a cup of starter. Again, I don't measure it, and roughly like 4 cups of flour and maybe a cup and a half of water. Again, I really just kind of do it between touch and feel and how it looks. And I'll let it rest, and I'll do some stretch and folds too here. So I do still kind of follow like a lot of what a lot of people recommend for doing sourdough. I just don't do all of the measuring or worry about like needing to do my stretch and folds every 15 minutes. I think I did these stretch and folds over the course of like 3 hours, and I might have done like 3 of them. And then after, and sorry, I was filming this with one hand, so usually I do a little bit better of a job of stretching and folding, but you'll see that it really doesn't matter, to be honest. And so, in this case, I had left this overnight because my husband likes to keep the house really cold at night. It was like 65 degrees, so it was taking a while for it to do its kind of bulk proof here. So this is me taking it out in the morning to kind of shape it. And I don't really follow like a specific shaping method either. Again, I just kind of want to encourage you that there's like I feel like there is obviously a wrong way to do sourdough, right? Because there are people that like their first couple attempts don't work out. And I think that kind of happens for everyone, to be honest. So I really don't want you to get discouraged by that. But I just kind of like fold it together. I do kind of like these like slap and undertucks. I don't know. There's probably a specific name for it, I'm sure. And then once I kind of get it into the general shape that I like, I will put it into a tea towel. I don't use a bandage tin or anything. I did in the beginning, but honestly, it just didn't work out well for me. And I find that just like putting it in a clean tea towel in the bowl that I mix the dough in kind of works well for me. And I just kind of like pinch up the sides of the dough ball just to kind of get like a little bit more structure there. And then I will fold it over and put it in the fridge. In this case, I did about like 24 hours of a cold ferment. Sometimes I do same day bakes, and it honestly turns out just fine. You're just not going to get as much of that sour taste that you would in a cold ferment, but it's going to bake up fine, and you're going to have like really good bread if you have a strong starter. And so here I'm just using a knife. I do have like a razor or whatever. I forget what it's actually called. Sorry. But I do have one of those. I don't know where it is, and I find that a sharp knife works okay. This isn't the best knife, but we're in a rental right now, so I just kind of use what I have. But again, like, I just don't think you need all these fancy tools that people try to sell you. And I get like they are helpful sometimes, so I'm not like knocking everyone that does, use them or sell them. I just think like you can get by with kind of the things that you have. And so I'm just taking my Dutch oven out of the oven right now. I put it at 500 and let it heat up inside until it was ready. And then I dropped it down to 450 when I put it in the oven. And I usually keep it 30 minutes covered and then about like 10 minutes uncovered. And that seems to work out pretty well for me. And I have been putting also a baking sheet underneath my Dutch oven the past couple bakes, and that has been amazing for making it so that the bottom of the bread doesn't get too hard. So I definitely recommend that as well. And you can see I was not patient enough waiting for this to cool. It's still kind of hot. But as you can see, like my crumb looks pretty good here, and I'm sure there'll be comments about how I can improve the crumb, or if I was more particular, I'm sure I could make a better crumb. But you know what? Like this bread was absolutely delicious. I made some really great sandwiches this week. I put some peanut butter on it, and I went downstairs and my son stole half of the bread, and he was happy as can be to eat this bread. So if you are feeling a little discouraged with sourdough, I hope this encourages you to give it a try. And if you do, let me know. I'd love to hear how it turns out.